how different was it for you being there as a opposing coach as opposed to home coach?
That's a good question. I enjoyed my time there, and so I did have some friends there, and it was great to kind of catch up. Again, I think that our focus was on the hockey at the time, and obviously I'm disappointed in the result. There's no doubt about that. But all in all, it was good to see some people that I hadn't seen in a while, and I was treated very well. So again. We're looking for a better result here in 2 weeks when we head back there again for the final time this season.
And I know several times that you've mentioned our issue within the neutral zone, especially passing to our own players. What within practice do you work on specifically for that section of the ice?
Well, I think it's really a focus and concentration. I mean, I looked at the last couple games, and we've really turned over a lot of pucks or not been able to contain pucks and have puck possession. And that leads to opportunities, or it leads to time spent in your own zone. And when you spend a lot of time in your own zone, not good things result out of that. So just the fact that we have clear possession and just executing clean exits and clean entries, I think is a huge part of what we haven't been able to accomplish in the last 3 or 4 opportunities. So, today again we just focused on some puck movement drills and just some concentration. And I mean, these guys are skilled players, but sometimes you get tired and you lose concentration, and sometimes you have to go right back to some basic things. And I think that we spent today just doing some of that.
And there was an interesting situation up there at a game in Fort Wayne where they actually had a forward on the bench that either his number was wrong or basically there was a roster error, and so that incurred a suspension, a penalty, whatever. How much care do you take into those things, and how much of that have you said, Josh, this is your responsibility?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We have to fill out a lineup card every night, and sometimes you get going in a couple of different ways with your pregame meetings and your team meetings, and a lot of times maybe we're doing different presentations to groups of people and things like that, and you forget to fill your lineup card out, and then all of a sudden the off-ice officials are standing at your door and they want it. There's a great opportunity there for some number to be wrong or some name to be wrong. I know last year I got questioned on my starting lineup by the opposing coach because I spelt one of our guys' names wrong. So since that point forward, I've been pretty detailed with regards to it. I wasn't real happy about that, but at the same time, it's just kind of interesting. I mean, I can see how it happens because sometimes it's maybe one of the last things that you think about. And again, it's you have 2 off-ice officials that are waiting for their responsibilities for you to, to fill out that card, and I can see where that error happens.
Who was the coach?
And going in, we're getting close to 10 games in to the season, and a number of these guys have been in since training camp,
yeah.
And you have several that are new.
Yeah.
At what point in your coaching mentally do you start thinking, okay, these guys should get it? But
yeah. Well, there's no doubt. I mean, that should have happened. I mean, this group has been together with the exception of a few different pieces, and again, some of those pieces are pretty key and critical pieces. There's no doubt about it. But guys have to step up and pick up the slack, and I felt like that from a consistency basis, there's some go-to players on our hockey team that need to give us better efforts. There's just no way around that, and I think we can all be better. I have to be better, and I think that to a man, our team can be better throughout this at this point in time with where we are from a roster standpoint. And we talk about that, and I really felt like again the other night we just had some really bad things happen to us early that. But I felt like we were the most prepared we'd been in a couple of games. And again, I think that our hockey team has shown an ability to continue to work till the final buzzer. We haven't given anything up. I think those are good signs, but at the same time too, we have to find a way to keep ourselves ahead of the curve here instead of chasing games. And we got into a little bit of a routine of that here in the last 4 or 5. With the exception of the Elmira game, heading into the third period, up 2-1. I really felt we were in a good place. We made 2 mental errors, and again, that game gets away. So, I think that to a man, all of us included, we need to find a way to do more, and it's a critical time for us.
Great questions. Great questions. Anyone else?
Just remember that doesn't kill us, makes us stronger, right?
Well, you know what? I mean, honestly, and this might sound kind of funny, but I'd rather find out what our challenges are right now. I mean, I don't like what we're going through. I don't think anybody does. And again, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to be the last team that's going to lose 3 or 4 hockey games. But I would rather find out what we're made of now, or what certain guys are made of now, so that we can, take the right steps to fix some of those things now instead of finding out in February when it's way too late. And, there's no sense fooling ourselves. We have a lot of work to do. We can be a good hockey team. We've proven that. We can be a good hockey team when we want to be, and we just have to get back to that. And we have to find a little bit of swagger. And it's tough. It's tough when, nobody likes what's going on. And as competitors and as players, it can be mentally challenging, and you can fool yourself into, losing confidence. And we talk about that all the time. So, I agree with your statement, and I appreciate your statement, because it really is true.
When you make some of the mistakes that you were talking about up at Elmira, are those physical, mental, a combination of the two? Or?
Well, again, I think that it can be a number of both, actually. I mean, I felt like, there were times when we just didn't take care of the puck and do some smart things. And that wasn't real characteristic of us up until this point. And then again, too, when you get into, your second game, and guys with only really 9 forwards, sometimes 10 or whatever, the physical part can start to come into play a little bit with things like that, especially when you're on the road. There's no doubt about that. But again, I think that we're getting into a point now in our schedule where we're starting to learn a lot about ourselves, and we're starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm. And, now it's time to start taking steps forward.
I was going to say, with a lot of games you've got coming up, does that help the team get into a rhythm?
If you win.
It doesn't win.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, we're well into it now. I mean, it's a lot different than the first 3 weeks of the season when we talked up here. We would play one game, 6 games off, and it's really hard to find that flow a little bit. And again, I think that it's important that we just try to take things a stride at a time here, and that's why I really like to just talk about Wednesday, and it's important for us to focus on Wednesday and go through these things one at a time. If you start to look too far ahead, then you can really, leave yourself open to some things that you just don't want to have happen for your hockey team. Our focus needs to be on Wednesday and getting back on track for Wednesday night.
Now, the new player, Hartnett, is that his?
Yeah, Tom Hartnett, yeah.
What can you tell us about him?
Well, it's just kind of an interesting. He doesn't live very far from Elmira, and he attended the Albany Devils training camp, played a couple exhibition games. He's kind of an unknown free agent. In the East Coast Hockey League, budgets are always a factor. This was an easy way for us to add a guy on the bus, bring him back to Evansville, and we'll give him an opportunity to see if he can play or not. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. I mean, it's so you always are looking for different ways to maybe get an advantage, and for him, this is going to be his opportunity, and when it comes, we'll find out if he can take advantage of it or not.
I noticed we have Peter and Myron on suspension now.
Yeah.
Is the suspension to protect us?
Yes. What the suspension does is it allows us to retain their rights. So instead of like a player saying, well, you know what, coach, I'm going to go home and go to school, and then in 3 weeks he's playing for Wheeling. Or, so what the suspension does is it's just a terminology basically that allows us to retain their rights, so that if ever they decide that they want to play again, it's our decision whether we'd like to bring them back into the hockey club, or maybe we want to move them for another piece, or at least it gives us the opportunity then to hold on to the asset of the player.
When a guy's on suspension, like the two that we have, is there any, I guess, into it as to when they may be back, or is it?
Yeah, well, again, that's really circumstantial. Sometimes players ask for personal leave and then they'll be put on suspension, and that can be for a number of reasons, whether, they have family circumstances or whether it's bereavement, or sometimes in the cases like with a guy like Wes Meyer, he's just decided that, maybe this isn't really for him. So there's no real timetable on that, but you never know. These guys can go home in a month, and as quick as they change their mind that they didn't want to do it, they can all of a sudden decide to do it. So then it at least allows you the opportunity to have a decision to make what to do with the player.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And in a case like Cal that's gone to Europe, I mean, there's always an opportunity that player can come back. I mean, even at the end of their season, they can go over to Europe. Because a guy like Cal's played 4 or 5 games for us, he can go over to Europe, play that season. If that season is done before ours is, he can come back here and join our hockey team. And so that's why, like, a lot of these players that end up going to Europe, they just get put on a team suspension list that allows that team the opportunity to at least have the option to add those players.
Is there some advantage to him playing there as opposed to here?
About 150,000 of them.
Yeah. Tax free.
I'll go play.
Me too.